My dad went into the hospital for open heart surgery. He spent 33 days in there. It was supposed to be more like, 5 to 6, 5 to 7 days, and then at least be able to come home. Still a long recovery, but be able to come home. So had some complications there. And finally on September 26th, he got to come home. That was a Friday. And he was so happy. I remember on the way home, my mom telling me that so this was about they live out in the country. So this was about a 45 to 50 minute drive home from the hospital. And as soon as he got in the car, he put the window down and he left the window down the whole way. Some of these roads are 55, 60 miles an hour. And he was just so excited about this fresh air. He got one glimpse of fresh air because during that 33 days, he transferred by ambulance from one type of hospital to another. But anyway, on that 33rd day, he got to come home, which was a Friday. And he did okay on Saturday and did okay on Sunday. Did really good on Sunday, actually. And he had to get he wanted to get one of his favorite meals, which is chicken wings, which he did. And then the next morning he passed away. What was supposed to be a full recovery, that he'd be stronger and have more energy than before he even went into the hospital. Even with the complications along the way, these weren't things that were supposed to set him back in life beyond these 33 days in the hospital. Even after the second setback, and there were really no more after that, the doctor said, I fully expect, my dad's name is Rick, by the way. I fully expect Rick, your dad, to have a full recovery. And I'm not blaming the doctor by any means. But yeah, he passed away that Monday at 78 years old. So this past week or so has been quiet. It hits hard. My dad lived 3 hours from me, but we have a camp next door to him up there at his place. So we'd go up almost every weekend, especially during the fall and winter. But I text him, back and forth, sometimes twice a day. Some days we'd miss a day, but, I'd say on an average work week, between talking to him in the evenings and texting, I'd probably, have 4 to 6 texts, something like that, and 2 to 4 phone calls, something like that over the course of the week. And that was just in between the weekends when I wasn't there. So we think we have time, with our loved ones. And I know you heard similar, people talk on this before, but you think you have time and there comes a time when you don't. So this video is going to be a little bit different, but if you'll stick with me, there's a few important lessons that were re-emphasized from my dad's journey that I want to share with you. So the first lesson is life is short. You got to do what matters to you, what matters to your family. You got to start checking those boxes faster, more often. Try to have less regular days. If there's time left in a particular day, go do something for yourself, for your family, even for your business, as long as it's advancing and doing things for you and your family. There's no perfect season. If there's something you've been wanting to do, make it happen today. Make it happen this week. Make it happen this month. Of course, it depends on what it is. He lived 78 years, which to some is a couple years beyond life expectancy. So we're all here for, 75 to 80 years on average. Maybe let's just say 70 to 80 years on average. Sure, some will live to be 97. Some people have lost children. I get it. But on average, you got about 70 to 80 years. Call the friend you haven't spoken to. Find a project or something fun to do with your kids, your wife, your husband, your family. Go do those things. Part of me is coming from the perspective of I wish I had more time with my dad, and part of me is coming from a very grateful heart that I did have the opportunity to spend so much precious time with him. Whatever it is stopping you, please don't wait on your calendar to get permission to move forward. Make those plans, do those things. There's no question my dad was probably the hardest working person I know. Perhaps many of you can say that about your dad or your mom or, any loved one in your life. And while I do appreciate the work hard ethic, I think he would, if he could say something to me right now, he'd say, don't wait. Go live the life you deserve, son. And so I'm sharing that with you. All right, the next one, and this one's a tough one for me, but the next one is don't worry about tomorrow. I'm a planner. I run a business. I like to know what's next. I like to know that I'm putting in today the things I need to do to have the fruit and the success and the outcomes of tomorrow, whether that's planning this month for next month or today for tomorrow. But one of the things that I definitely realize, and he tried to teach me, is don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own set of worries. Part of this is about worry, and part of this is about living in the moment, kind of like the first point we touched on. Those 33 days my dad spent in the hospital, and I don't want to go into the details, but just some of the stuff he had to go through, some of the stuff he had to fight through while he was in there. It just reminds me that there's so much in life on this world that's out of our hands. So don't stress about it. Just, it is what it is. Do what you can do to make the best of it, as we did with him. But take care of yourself and don't stress about those things. Sitting there, spending time with him, or even for me, because I had, over 2.5 hours just to get to him there in the hospital. A lot of the thoughts were as I was driving there, but even sitting there with him in the hospital, it reminded me, all these goals, all these things you're trying to do in these short 70, 80 years you're here on earth. I'm not going to say none of it matters, but on one hand, none of it matters. What mattered was just being there. He had so many tubes going in him and in his throat, and for about a week and a half, maybe it was 2 weeks, I don't remember. He couldn't even talk. We had to communicate by him writing. I stopped at Walgreens on the way into the hospital one day and bought him a dry erase board, so he'd have to write down on there what he wanted to say. And then we could talk into his ear and he could hear us, with our response, or we'd respond on the whiteboard. But that's what mattered, those moments. I'm not the first person that's ever said to you or to myself, live in the present, live in the moment. But most of us don't do it. Most of us don't do it. The only time I would tell you to live in the future is when you have happy or exciting plans. It's always nice to have great plans for the weekend coming up, or the month ahead, or a family vacation coming up, or a big trip, something like that. New house being built, whatever it is for you. Those, looking into the future with that, helps make some of the harder days better. But generally speaking, we don't do a good job as a society from what I see of living in the present. So If this video helps you move from here to here or here to here, any movement forward, upward on being able to live in the presence, please slow down, think about that, pray about it, and figure out how to do more of that in your life. So I'm going to try to live differently. I'm going to try to take in each day, each moment, and trust that tomorrow will take care of itself, because on one hand, it's not promised. It may not come. But on the other hand, when it does, doesn't it always take care of itself anyway? And number 3, the third lesson, and this is probably the most important thing I'll say in this video. Prioritize your relationship with the Lord. If you have that relationship, prioritize it, pour more into it. And if you don't have that relationship, talk to Him, talk to God, talk to Jesus, and say, I'd like to know more. I'd like to be closer to you. I'd like to understand better. But prioritize that. In my dad's later years, I watched him grow close to the Lord. But it was something, for whatever reason. I've talked to strangers, I've talked to friends, close friends, distant friends, acquaintances. But for some reason, it just never worked out right to have many or any conversations like that with my dad. And that journey he went through in the hospital, paired with some conversations that I finally was able to have with him about Jesus and what it means to be saved and what Jesus did for this, and what that entryway to heaven looks like and the criteria. He, in a big way, found his way on his own through prayer and just all that time he had in the hospital. I'd like to think, my conversation, an example, and probably many of the conversations and examples of just the good people in those hospitals, the nursing staff, the doctors, not all of them, but just so many good, warm-hearted people that were there to serve him in the hospital, probably, let their light shine in their own ways. So when you put all that together, again, mostly my dad finding his way, it was comforting to know he found Jesus before it was too late. But I'll say this, it was near the end. And there's probably nothing in this world that brings me greater joy than to know, I can look up and say, Dad, I'm going to see you again one day. And know He's there, waiting on me and just waiting on all of us. So do it. Do it. Don't wait. Don't wait to look up at the very end and say, God, are you there? God, help me. Don't wait till the catastrophes in your life. By all means, talk to Him during the catastrophes, but don't wait and make that be the only time. If you've known me for 12 seconds or 12 years, nothing brings me greater joy than that relationship with God. And it's not about being perfect or even being religious. It's just about finding that peace, that comfort, that relationship. Because storms will come. Big storms, little storms. Storms come. We all know that. And it's so much easier to walk through them or endure them or dodge them when you walk hand in hand with Jesus. So, losing my dad taught me that life is short. Tomorrow's not promised. And faith is key. If you're still watching, I know this was a different type of video. Thank you. I hope somehow this meant something to you. Leave a comment below. If you're going through something, you want to reach out directly, maybe something similar is going on in your world. I don't know, maybe you watch this video a year from now and I'm in a better place and you're going through something and just need a hug, handshake, someone to wrap their arm around your shoulder. Let me know. I love you, Dad. I love you, man. I'm proud of you. I'll see you again one day. Thank you guys for watching.